It was a super quiet Saturday in my little neighborhood called Oakwood Lane. The sun was shining bright, and everything felt calm. Kids were running around in the yards, laughing and playing tag. Birds were chirping in the trees, hopping from branch to branch. And me? I'm just a regular guy named Jake. I'm not famous or anything special, just a dude who really likes cool gadgets. That day, I was outside with my brand new drone. It's this awesome little flying machine with a camera on it. I was so excited to make it zoom up into the sky and see what it could see. I stood in my front yard, holding the controller, watching my drone lift off the ground. It buzzed like a happy bee as it flew higher and higher. I smiled big because it was so much fun. I could see the whole street on the little screen in my hands, houses, trees, even a dog chasing its tail. Everything seemed perfect, like the best day ever. But then, out of nowhere, trouble showed up. And her name was Karen. Karen wasn't just any neighbor. Oh no, she was the boss of our neighborhood group called the HOA. That stands for Homeowners Association, which is like a club that makes rules for everyone. Karen loved rules more than anything. She always carried a clipboard with a long list of things we weren't allowed to do, like painting our houses funny colors or leaving toys in the yard. She walked around like she was the queen of Oakwood Lane, and if you broke even one tiny rule, she'd give you this mean stare. Her glare was so scary, it could make a big, tough bear run away and hide. That day, Karen saw me with my drone, and she did not look happy. To her, I wasn't just Jake having fun. Nope, I was some annoying kid making trouble, breaking her perfect rules. She thought my drone was loud or dangerous or something, even though it was just a little toy flying around. I could see her coming from across the street, marching fast like she was on a mission. Her shoes clicked on the pavement, and her clipboard bounced in her hand. Oh, and she had her phone out already, holding it up like it was a weapon. I knew right then this wasn't going to be good. Here we go again, I said under my breath, shaking my head a little. Karen had yelled at me before, like the time I left my bike in the driveway for 10 minutes. She'd stomped over and told me it was against the rules and that I'd better move it fast. I wasn't scared of her, but she sure knew how to make a big fuss over nothing. This time, though, I had a funny feeling in my tummy. Something told me this wasn't just about my drone being annoying. There was something bigger going on, something wild and crazy that I didn't even know about yet. And guess what? Karen didn't know it either. Trouble was sneaking up on her like a quiet cat, and she had no idea it was coming. Let me paint you a picture of that moment. The sun was still shining, and the kids were still giggling nearby. My drone was buzzing up above, doing little loops in the air. I was just standing there in my sneakers and a t-shirt, trying to enjoy my Saturday. And then there was Karen, stomping closer and closer, her face all scrunched up like she'd just bitten a sour lemon. She looked so mad, like my drone was the worst thing she'd ever seen. But here's the thing, she didn't know what I'd seen earlier that day. Something strange was happening in our neighborhood, and my drone was about to catch it all. See, before Karen started her march toward me, I'd flown my drone around a little bit. I'd seen something weird on the screen: 2 police cars parked on the next street over. Their lights were off, and they were just sitting there, super quiet. No one else seemed to notice them, not even the kids playing nearby. I didn't know why they were there, but it made me wonder. Were they waiting for something? Or someone? I shrugged it off at first, thinking maybe they were just taking a break. But now, with Karen coming at me like an angry bull, I started to think maybe those cops were part of the story. Karen didn't care about any of that, though. She just wanted to yell at me. She got closer and pointed her finger right at my face. "Jake," she shouted, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You can't fly that thing here. It's against the rules, and I'm not going to let you ruin our neighborhood." I sighed and tried to stay calm. She always made everything sound so dramatic, like my drone was going to crash into her house or something. But I could tell she was serious this time. Her phone was in her hand, and I had a sneaky feeling she was about to call someone like the police. That's when I got really curious. What if those cops I saw were already here for something else? What if Karen's big, loud fit was about to make everything way more exciting? I didn't say anything to her yet. I just stood there, holding my drone controller, letting her talk. My drone kept flying, and I kept watching. Something big was brewing, like a storm getting ready to burst. And Karen? She was walking right into it without even knowing. Hey, before we keep going, I've got a quick question for you. Have you ever had a nosy neighbor like Karen? Someone who's always watching and complaining about everything you do? Drop your answer in the comments below, because I'd love to know. Oh, and if you're liking this story so far, make sure to stick around. Trust me, it's about to get really good. My drone, those sneaky cops, and Karen's big mouth, they're all about to crash together in the wildest way. Are you ready to find out what happens next? Hang on tight, because this is just the beginning. Karen didn't wait even one tiny second. She marched right up to me, her face all red and angry, and started yelling. "You can't fly that thing here," she barked, like a big, loud dog. She wagged her finger in my face, moving it back and forth like I was a little kid who'd been naughty. "It's against HOA rules, Jake, and I'm calling the cops on you." Her voice was sharp and mean, and she made sure everyone could hear her. I just stood there, holding my drone controller, trying not to get mad. "It's just a drone, Karen," I said, keeping my voice nice and calm. "It's not hurting anyone. It's just flying around, having fun." But Karen didn't care what I said. Not one bit. She acted like my drone was the worst thing ever, like it was breaking every rule in her big, fat HOA book. Her eyes got all small and squinted, like she was trying to stare right through me. Then, she pulled out her phone and started dialing 911. Yep, the real police, right there in the middle of the street. She held the phone up to her ear and shouted so loud the whole block could hear. "Hello? Yes, there's a disturbance here," she screeched, her voice all high and squeaky. "This boy is harassing me with his silly toy. I need help right now." I couldn't believe it. Harassing her? With my drone? It was just buzzing around in the sky, not bothering anybody. I rolled my eyes so hard I thought they might fall out of my head. Karen was being totally ridiculous, making a huge deal out of nothing. But here's the thing, she didn't know what I knew. Earlier that day, before she came stomping over, I'd seen something super weird. My drone had been flying around, and I'd peeked at the little screen that shows what the camera sees. Over on the next street, just 1 block away, I spotted 2 police cars. They were parked there, super quiet, with their lights turned off. No flashing red and blue, no sirens, nothing. Just sitting there, like they were waiting for something or maybe someone. I didn't know why they were there, but it made me wonder. What were they up to? I didn't tell Karen about the police cars. Nope, I kept that little secret to myself. She was too busy yelling and waving her arms around like a crazy person. "You're breaking the rules, Jake," she kept saying, over and over. "The HOA says no drones, and I'm in charge here." She acted like she owned the whole neighborhood, like she was the boss of everything. To her, I was just some annoying kid with a noisy toy, and she was going to make sure I got in big trouble. But something in my tummy told me she wasn't as in control as she thought she was. While Karen kept shouting into her phone, I looked up at my drone. It was still flying high, buzzing around like a happy little bird. I could see the neighborhood on my screen, houses, trees, and even Karen standing there looking like an angry tomato. She didn't notice the cops I'd seen earlier, and she definitely didn't know that her big, loud tantrum was about to make everything way messy. I stayed quiet, letting her talk and talk. Every word she said was like digging a hole she didn't even know she was falling into. The kids playing nearby stopped their game for a second to peek at us. A lady walking her dog slowed down to watch. Everyone could hear Karen screaming about my drone, and I bet they thought she was being silly too. But I wasn't worried about them. My mind kept going back to those police cars. Why were they just sitting there? Were they waiting for me because of my drone? Nah, that didn't make sense. Karen had just called 911, and those cars were already there before she even started yelling. So what was going on? Karen kept going, her voice getting louder and louder. "This is a peaceful neighborhood, Jake, and you're ruining it," she said, shaking her phone at me like it was a magic wand. "The police are coming, and you'll be sorry." I shrugged my shoulders and didn't say much. I didn't want to fight with her. Fighting with Karen was like arguing with a brick wall. She never listened. But I couldn't help thinking she was about to get a big surprise. Something was fishy, and it wasn't just her bad attitude. The air felt funny, like when you know a storm is coming but the sky is still clear. Karen thought she was winning, standing there with her clipboard in one hand and her phone in the other. She thought calling the cops would scare me and make me stop flying my drone. But I had a sneaky feeling those police cars I saw weren't there for me. Nope, they were up to something else, and Karen's loud mouth was about to stir up a whole lot of trouble. I glanced at my drone screen again, just for a second. It was still flying, showing me the street and the yards. I wondered if it could see those police cars from up there. Maybe not yet, they were hidden behind some trees. But I kept my drone in the air, letting it do its thing. Karen didn't know it, but that little flying toy was about to see something she'd never expect. Her big plan to get me in trouble? It might just turn around and bite her instead. She kept talking to the 911 person, telling them all about how dangerous I was. He's flying it right over my head, she lied. My drone wasn't even close to her, it was way up high, minding its own business. I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. I just stood there, watching her make a fool of herself. The more she yelled, the more I thought about those cops. Something big was hiding, waiting to pop out like a jack-in-the-box. And Karen? She was too busy being mad to see it coming. So there we were, me with my drone, and Karen with her phone, right in the middle of Oakwood Lane. The sun was still shining, the birds were still chirping, but the day was about to get wild. Karen thought she was the queen, but queens can fall, right? I didn't know everything yet, but I could feel it. Trouble was sneaking closer, and it wasn't my drone she should have been worried about. Stick around, because this story's just heating up. Karen was still yelling into her phone, going on and on about how bad my drone was. She didn't stop for even a second to take a breath. Her voice was loud and squeaky, like a mad squirrel chattering at me. But I didn't care about her noise anymore. I kept my drone flying high in the sky, buzzing around like a happy little bug. I held the controller tight and watched the tiny screen that showed me what my drone could see. That's when something super strange popped up, a little flicker on the screen that made my eyes go wide. I tilted my head and looked closer. My drone's camera had caught something sneaky happening behind Karen's house. There was a guy creeping around back there, moving slow and quiet like he didn't want anyone to see him. He was carrying a big black bag, the kind you might use to hold a bunch of stuff. It looked heavy, swinging a little as he tiptoed along. Weird, right? Who was this guy? And what was in that bag? I didn't know yet, but it made my tummy feel all twisty and excited. I pushed a button on my controller to zoom in with the camera. The picture got bigger, and I could see the guy better. He had a hat pulled low over his face, like he was hiding. He was sneaking past Karen's back porch, heading toward her garage. I kept my drone flying, following him from way up high so he wouldn't hear it. Meanwhile, Karen was still shouting at me, waving her arms like a wild windmill. "You're going to jail for this, Jake," she hollered, her voice so loud it bounced off the houses. "I've had enough of your silly toy." She didn't have a clue about the guy behind her house. Nope, she was too busy being mad at me to notice anything else. And she definitely didn't see the cops I'd spotted earlier. Remember those police cars I told you about? The ones parked on the next street over, all quiet with their lights off? Well, they weren't just sitting there anymore. I peeked over my shoulder and saw them moving super slow, creeping closer like sneaky cats hunting a mouse. They were coming toward our street now, but they still didn't turn on their sirens or lights. What were they waiting for? I didn't say a word to Karen. Not one little peep. I just stood there, letting her yell and yell. Every time she shouted, every time she shook her finger at me, it was like she was digging a big hole for herself. A hole she didn't even know about yet. She thought she was the boss, calling the police on me and acting all big and tough. But I could tell she was begging for attention, the wrong kind of attention. The kind that might make her wish she'd stayed quiet. My drone kept flying, and I moved it a little so it could follow that sneaky guy. He slipped around the side of Karen's garage, ducking low like he was scared someone might spot him. The big black bag bumped against his leg as he went. What was he hiding? Was it toys? Clothes? Something secret? I didn't know, but I wanted to find out. My drone stayed up high, watching him like a hawk. I could see everything on my screen, and it was getting more exciting by the second. Karen's voice kept blasting my ears. "This neighborhood is peaceful, and you're ruining it," she screeched into her phone. "The police need to come right now." I almost laughed, but I held it in. She had no idea the police were already so close. They were just around the corner now, rolling slowly down the street behind some bushes. I could see their cars peeking out a little, but Karen didn't notice. She was too busy flapping her arms and making a huge fuss about my drone. My heart started beating faster, thumping loud in my chest. This was getting good, really good. That guy with the bag disappeared behind the garage, out of sight for a second. I moved my drone a tiny bit more, trying to find him again. There he was. He was crouched down by the garage door, looking around like he was nervous. The bag was on the ground next to him, and he kept patting it, like he was making sure it was still there. What was he up to? My mind was racing with ideas. Maybe he was a thief. Or maybe he was hiding something super important. The cops were even closer now. I could see them through the trees, their cars inching along. They were almost to our street, but they still didn't do anything big. No lights, no loud noises, just waiting. Why weren't they jumping out yet? Did they know about the guy with the bag? Were they watching him too? I didn't have all the answers, but I could feel something big was about to happen. It was like the air was buzzing, not just my drone. Karen kept going, totally clueless. "You're in so much trouble, Jake," she said, pointing at me like I was the worst kid ever. "The police will take that drone away, and you'll learn your lesson." Her clipboard was tucked under her arm, and her phone was still pressed to her ear. She thought she was winning, but she didn't see the real story unfolding right behind her own house. Every shout she made, every mean word, was like adding more dirt to that hole she was digging. I stayed quiet, just watching my drone screen. The guy by the garage stood up quick, looking around one more time. Then he grabbed the bag and slipped inside the garage, shutting the door fast. My drone couldn't see him anymore, but I knew he was up to something sneaky. What was in that bag? And how did it connect to Karen? I didn't know yet, but I was starting to guess this wasn't just about my drone anymore. The cops were so close now I could almost hear their tires on the road. My heart was pounding like a drum, boom, boom, boom. Karen's tantrum was loud, but the real action was quiet, hiding just out of her sight. She thought she was in charge, but something told me she was about to find out she wasn't. My drone kept flying, and I kept watching. This day was turning into a big adventure, and I couldn't wait to see what happened next. Stick with me, this is getting wild. All of a sudden, everything went crazy like a big, loud fireworks show. My drone was buzzing high above Karen's backyard, watching everything below. That's when it happened. The cops jumped out of their cars super fast, like superheroes leaping into action. "Hands up," they shouted, their voices booming across the street. It was so loud and wild that my heart jumped in my chest. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Karen spun around quick, like she'd heard a big bang. Her phone slipped right out of her hand and plopped onto the grass with a little thud. "What's going on?" she shrieked, her voice all high and squeaky like a scared mouse. She looked at the cops, then at me, then back at the cops. Her eyes were huge, and her mouth hung open. She thought those police were there because of me, because of my drone. Oh boy, was she wrong. She had no idea what was really happening, but she was about to find out. Right then, the sneaky guy I'd seen behind her house came running out from the garage. He was the one with the big black bag, and now he was moving fast, like a rabbit trying to hop away from trouble. He bolted across the yard, his hat bouncing on his head, the bag swinging in his hand. But the cops were too quick for him. In just a few seconds, bam, they grabbed him. One cop tackled him to the ground, and another yanked the bag right out of his grip. He didn't have a chance to get away. I watched it all on my drone's little screen, my mouth wide open. Who was this guy? Why was he running? Then one of the cops pulled off the guy's hat, and I gasped. It wasn't just some random dude, it was Tom, Karen's husband. Yep, the same Tom who lived in her house and mowed the lawn every weekend. My jaw dropped. Karen's husband was the sneaky guy with the bag. This was getting crazier by the minute. The cops opened that big black bag right there in the yard, and guess what spilled out? Money. Lots and lots of cash, green dollar bills tumbling onto the grass like a treasure chest had just popped open. I zoomed my drone in closer to see it better. Where did all that money come from? One of the cops started talking loud so everyone could hear. "This is stolen cash from the HOA fund," he said, holding up a handful of bills. "We've been watching you two for weeks." My brain started putting the pieces together. The HOA fund was the money all the neighbors paid to keep the neighborhood nice, like for fixing the playground or planting flowers. Tom and Karen had been taking that money, sneaking it away and hiding it in that bag. Karen wasn't just a mean lady with a clipboard, she was a thief, and her husband was helping her. They thought they were so smart, keeping it a secret, but the cops knew all along. They'd been waiting for the perfect moment to catch them, and now that moment was here. My drone was still flying, and its camera caught every single thing. I could see it all on my screen: Tom on the ground with a cop holding his arms, the money scattered in the grass, and Karen standing there looking like she'd seen a ghost. Her face went super white, like all the color drained out of it. She wasn't yelling anymore. Nope, she was quiet now, staring at the cops and Tom and the money. I think that's when it hit her: the 911 call she made to get me in trouble wasn't working out how she planned. Instead, it turned a big, bright spotlight right on her and Tom. One of the cops walked over to her, his boots crunching on the grass. He was tall and serious, with a shiny badge on his shirt. "Ma'am," he said, looking right at Karen, "we need to talk." His voice was calm but strong, like he meant business. Karen's eyes got even bigger, and she shook her head a little, like she couldn't believe this was happening. But it was happening big time. The cops weren't there for my drone. They were there for her and Tom, and they had all the proof they needed. I stood there in my yard, holding my drone controller, watching it all go down. My little flying toy had caught the whole thing on video, clear as day. I could see Tom trying to wiggle away, but the cops held him tight. I could see the money flapping in the breeze, and Karen's phone lying in the grass where she dropped it. She'd called 911 to scare me, but instead, she accidentally told the world about her own sneaky secret. How funny is that? Karen's big plan had flipped upside down. She thought she was the boss, yelling at me and waving her clipboard like a queen. But now she was the one in trouble, big, huge trouble. The cops started asking her questions, and she mumbled something I couldn't hear. Tom looked mad, kicking the dirt with his shoe, but he couldn't get away. The neighbors were peeking out their windows now, watching the whole wild show. Kids stopped playing, and even the birds seemed to go quiet. My heart was still pounding fast, but I couldn't help smiling a little. My drone didn't just catch a cool video, it caught the truth. Karen and Tom had been sneaky for weeks, maybe months, taking money that didn't belong to them. The cops knew it, and they were ready. They'd parked their cars and waited, watching every move. And when Karen called 911, yelling about my drone, it was like she rang a big bell that said, "Come get us now." The cop talking to Karen pulled out a little notebook and started writing stuff down. Another cop picked up the black bag and stuffed the money back inside. Tom kept his head down, not looking at anybody. Karen's hands were shaking, and she kept saying, "This is a mistake." But it wasn't a mistake. It was real, and it was all on my drone's video: every sneaky step, every dollar bill, every second of the chaos. Boom, that was it for Karen. Game over. She thought she could boss me around and get me in trouble, but instead, she tripped right into her own mess. My drone hovered above, still buzzing, still watching. The cops had everything they needed, and Karen's mean face wasn't so mean anymore. She looked scared, and Tom looked caught. This was the wildest Saturday ever, and it wasn't over yet. The whole neighborhood stood there with their mouths open, watching everything happen. The cops put shiny silver handcuffs on Tom's wrists, clicking them shut tight. He didn't look happy at all, his head was down, and he shuffled his feet as they pulled him toward the police car. Karen didn't get handcuffs yet, but the cops walked her away too, holding her arm gently but firmly. They said she had to go answer some big questions. Everyone was quiet, just staring, because no one could believe what they'd just seen. It turns out Karen and Tom had been super sneaky for a long time, months and months. Karen had been taking little bits of money from the HOA dues. That's the cash all the neighbors pay to keep the playground nice and the streets clean. She thought no one would notice if she grabbed a little here and a little there. She and Tom hid it all, probably laughing about how clever they were. But they weren't clever enough, because my little drone flight messed up their whole sneaky plan. That drone video I took, it showed everything: the money spilling out of the black bag, Tom running, and the cops catching him. It was like a movie, but it was real. I gave that video to the police right away, and they said it was perfect proof. They could see exactly what Karen and Tom had done, clear as day. Because of my drone, their secret was busted wide open, and they couldn't wiggle out of it. Pretty soon, the HOA had a big emergency meeting. Everyone in the neighborhood got together in the community room, talking loud and fast about what happened. They needed a new president, someone to be in charge instead of Karen. And this time, they wanted someone who wouldn't steal. No more sneaky hands grabbing the money. The grown UPS voted, and they picked Mrs. Lopez from down the street. She's nice and always waves when she walks her dog. Everyone clapped when she said she'd make sure the HOA was fair from now on. Back in my yard, I pushed a button on my controller and made my drone come down slow and soft. It landed right by my feet, and I picked it up, grinning big. Some neighbors walked over, still shaking their heads like they couldn't believe it. One of them, Mr. Carter, patted me on the back. "Good job, Jake," he said, smiling. Another lady, Mrs. Kim, laughed and said, "You're a hero with that drone." I felt all warm and happy inside. "Didn't see that coming, huh?" I said to Mr. Carter, holding my drone up like a prize. He chuckled and shook his head. "Nope, not in a million years," he said. "Karen always acted so bossy, and now look at her." We both laughed, and it felt good. Other neighbors nodded and smiled too. They were glad the truth came out, and I think they were a little proud of me for helping. Karen's days of being mean and bossy were over. No more stomping around with her clipboard, yelling at people about silly rules. No more glaring at kids for riding bikes too fast or at me for flying my drone. Her reign of terror, that's what I called it, was done. She and Tom were in big trouble now, and the cops would figure out what to do with them. Maybe they'd have to give all that money back, or maybe they'd even go to jail. I didn't know yet, but I knew they couldn't hurt Oakwood Lane anymore. That day, the neighborhood felt different, like a big weight was gone. The air was lighter, and people were talking and smiling more. Kids went back to playing, kicking a ball across the grass. The birds started chirping again, and the sun kept shining bright. I looked at my drone and thought, wow, you're pretty cool. It wasn't just a fun toy, it accidentally saved the day. Oakwood Lane felt freer, and I was happy to be part of it. So, here's something I learned that crazy day: sometimes the person who yells the loudest is hiding the biggest secrets. Karen was like that. She walked around our neighborhood, shouting at everyone, acting like she was the boss of everything. She pointed her finger at me, called the cops, and made a big fuss about my drone. She thought she could scare me and push me down. But guess what? In the end, all her yelling didn't help her. Nope, she tripped right over her own sneaky lies, and everyone saw the truth. Me. I wasn't trying to be some big hero or anything. I'm just Jake, a regular kid who loves flying his drone. I wanted to have fun that Saturday, zooming it up in the sky and watching the world on my little screen. I didn't know I'd catch Karen and Tom stealing money. I didn't plan to bust their secret wide open. It just happened. Funny how life works, right? You start your day thinking it's going to be normal, and then bam, something wild changes everything. Karen thought she was so smart, hiding that cash with Tom and bossing us all around. But she wasn't smart enough to trick my drone. That little flying toy saw it all and showed the cops the truth. It's kind of cool to think about sometimes the smallest things, like a buzzing drone, can make the biggest difference. Karen's loud voice didn't win. Her mean stares didn't win. The truth did, and it came flying out of the sky when she least expected it. Here's what I want you to remember: next time someone tries to push you down or yell at you for no good reason, don't let it get you sad. Keep your head up high. You never know what might happen. Maybe the truth is hiding somewhere, waiting to pop out and surprise everyone. Maybe it's buzzing around like my drone, ready to show the world what's really going on. People like Karen might look big and tough, but they can fall fast when their secrets spill out. I think that's a pretty neat lesson. It makes me feel strong, knowing that even a regular kid like me can help make things right without even trying. You don't have to be loud or mean to win, you just have to keep doing your thing and let the truth do the rest. Life can be full of surprises, and sometimes those surprises are the best part. Like my drone catching Tom with that bag of money. Who would have guessed that? Not me, not Karen, not anybody. So, what do you think about all this? Have you ever had a moment where the tables turned like that? Maybe someone was being mean to you, and then poof, something happened, and they got caught or things flipped around. I'd love to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments below, because I bet you've got some good ones. It's fun to share and see how wild life can get for all of us. That's it for this story, but I'll catch you in the next one. Keep your eyes open and your head up, you never know what might fly your way. Thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you soon with more crazy adventures.